All right, so the most exciting thing that I'm working on right now at the institution is working with what we're calling our extended transcript, our competency transcript. We do work with badges, et cetera, trying to figure out how to better help students surface the competencies. The university is moving towards a competency-based model, so we have data that allows us to see the competencies the student has achieved versus, for example, a course and a grade and a unit, which don't really tell you much about what happened inside of that learning environment and what type of demonstration of learning they've done. So we've done a lot of work with trying to figure out how to match the competencies of the student to the requirements or competencies of positions that they might want to apply to. So if you think about it as Match.com, we're now in a position to start looking at that data. So can we pull the data from the competencies on an individual student level and compare it against a student who wants to pursue a position and help them figure out what are the gaps, what is the delta, and then also use that data to inform curriculum alignment and shifts in the future to make sure that we're meeting the students' needs in terms of they're going to college, they want to get a job. Are they learning everything that they need to learn? Are they able to surface everything that they need to surface and talk competently and confidently to an employer about their capacity and their capabilities? So my highlight actually was a session. I thought, and maybe I'll cheat a little bit and say the first highlight is the opening session, I think, set a really good tone with a lot of questions, perhaps that higher ed doesn't want to really hear. We kind of like to stay in our bubble. But I went to a session on social listening, and I will admit that I'm not quite exactly sure. I'm not a marketing person, so I'm not necessarily super up on different terminology, and I think social media, and I think, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, but fundamentally the role that social media and listening to your social media in effective ways and surfacing data and using that to drive engagement and adoption, to drive enrollment, are new things. They sort of exist at the periphery. I think we all kind of know these things happen. We've had experiences on social media that have led us to, go towards or away from a product or a service. But putting that in higher ed context, for example, for metrics on how fast do you respond and how complete is your response, and did you solve the problem for the student if they're sharing a problem on social media, and how do you sort of build a brand and a market, and in an era of decreasing enrollment in many cases, how do you leverage this type of new technology to really drive that type of engagement, commitment, passion for the university or the college? Amazing presentation on that. Highlight. All right, so why did I choose to become a member of AACRAO? I've actually been a member of AACRAO since 1991. I think the thing I most like about it is it allows me to have opportunities in the community in which I have chosen to spend my professional career, and the amount of resources it provides. So we have 3 conferences a year, very different conferences. This is the SEM conference. They have a general conference for registrars, very different tone and themes and very different experience. And then we have a technology and transfer conference, really dealing with those 2 subjects kind of exclusively. I like the kind of broad-based support and the fact that they continually work on growing the profession. For example, the AACRAO competencies that they put out have been incredibly helpful for our department and our office as we've worked towards staff development. We certainly would have probably done it without them, but they certainly gave us a leg up. And I think the last thing would probably be their role as kind of a guider, an organization who puts together best practice and how we can do things and kind of grabs. It's really impossible for me to grab 3,000 institutions' viewpoints of things, but they do a lot of surveys. I'm a data person. I love that, and I love that they put out guides that say, hey, here are the things you should consider. Here are the practices that are developing as best practice or emerging practice. So it's really rich and robust, not only with resources, but also with connections at the conferences.